Coming up in our next installment of America's Hope, we'll meet Willie Alfonso, who served as a chaplain to the New York Yankees, one of the greatest sports franchises in history, and Louis Perry, who's been president of a security firm that has protected high-profile clients, people that you know. All that and more on our next installment of America's Hope. Good evening, I'm Kelly Wright, and welcome to America's Hope. And as always, as we'd like to say, we hope that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. Most notably, you matter to God, you matter to your family, you matter to your neighborhood, you matter to people, whether you know it or not, and you matter to yourself. Now, we are in a very interesting time in America because it's what I call the pinnacle of sports. We have the World Series going on. We have NBA basketball beginning. We have NFL. Everybody's excited on the weekends because they get to watch their favorite sports. And of course, we know that sports is very revered and venerated here in America. We challenge and always applaud our sports figures, our sports heroes. Well, the next gentleman I'm going to introduce you to is someone who has helped a lot of those sports heroes become better men by serving them in the capacity of helping them build their best life now and helping them understand that beyond the body, beyond the mind, there's also the spirit. And so we want to focus on that tonight. Willie Alfonso joins us now. He is the former chaplain of the New York Yankees, the New York Giants, and the Brooklyn Mets. That takes care of all three: baseball, football, basketball. He is also the author of this book, It's a New Beginning, How to Turn Setbacks into Comebacks. He's accomplished a lot in spite of what he faced as a child of an abusive and alcoholic father. And at the age of 10, Willie was forced to leave home when his mother chose to turn him away after he defended her during a beating from his then crazed and drunken father. And so Willie spent his teenage years, living through some very difficult circumstances. Willie, thank you for joining us this hour.
Good to be here.
It's an honor to have you here, and you have done so many things against all odds, especially going back to the type of childhood that you had. Yeah. You shouldn't be here.
Shouldn't be here. You know, came from a home, 7 kids, alcoholic father, very abusive, and beat my mom every day. Matter of fact, I remember him cutting her from the palm of her hand to the top of her shoulder, over 1,000 stitches, beat us almost every day. He would get drunk almost every day and just abuse us.
How did you survive?
You know, there's the old saying when I was growing up in the 60s, only the strong survives, you know, and yeah. So you learn how to get strong. You know, my father came in one day drunk and picked up a broom to hit my mom. But you know, as I was growing up, 5, 6, 7, I would say to myself, one day I'm gonna man up and I'm gonna take care of this dude, man. And I said when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and at the age of 11, he came in drunk and he was gonna beat her with a broom, and I went and I hit him and knocked him down, and he left. And I said, man, this is like the best day of my life, man. This guy's gone, we could have some peace. But on the third day, my mom came to me and said to me, listen, we have a little issue here. We have a problem. Your father is coming back, but you got to go.
What?
And so they threw me out, you know, and so I lived in abandoned buildings. Wake up in the morning where rats were biting my feet. I've lived in cardboard boxes. I lived with an uncle for a little bit, but he was abusive also. And so I just went to the street, you know, and I found the street as my place to live, as my family out in the street.
So now you said only the strong survive. You can't go back home. They've kicked you to the curb. You're out on the streets, living in cardboard boxes. You're talking about being around rats and being homeless.
Right.
As a child, how old were you then?
11.
11 years old?
Yeah.
So how did you find the strength to survive on the streets? What did you have to do?
Well, you know, growing up in Brooklyn, I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant and Williamsburg. As a kid, you have thick skin or you don't survive. So before I went to the street, I already had thick skin. And dealing with a father that was beating my sisters, my mom, you get thick skin. So I hit the street. I was scared, but I wasn't, and so you found ways to make it. If I wanted to eat, I would steal food, I would stand in front of Joe's Pizzeria and eat the crust that people would throw in the garbage can, hoping that somebody buy me a slice. If I was cold, I would go to Orchard Street and Delancey Street and snatch a coat, And then I started sniffing glues, sniffing Cabona, drinking wine, smoking pot, started sniffing heroin, skin popping. Then I became a heroin addict and cocaine addict. I was on drugs, off drugs, on drugs, off drugs. And so that's the way I lived.
Willie, this is, your life at that age, sadly, this happens to quite a few children in America.
Yeah.
And a lot of it happens because of abandonment issues from their own family members, or there's domestic abuse, or there's human trafficking, or there's drug abuse. So you're trying to survive out here. You're not even 15.
Yeah, I'm trying to survive. My uncle was a refrigeration air conditioning guy, so he used to fix refrigerator for this bodega, small supermarket. So I went there and I asked, because I used to work with him a little bit. The owner knew me, so I asked him, can I sleep in his basement? And I would clean his refrigerators, put up his merchandise. Winter was coming, so you have to find a place indoors. So I lived in his basement, the store, and there were rats. There were big old rats down there, but it was better than being in the street. And the store was upstairs. If I was hungry, I could eat. It was a good deal, So I stayed there, and back in those days, the bodega owners lived on top of the bodega.
That's right.
So his daughter used to bring him coffee and food, and she started bringing me coffee and food, and we fell in love. And that's 55 years ago, because I'm still married to this girl.
Wait, you married? Oh, man.
I'm married 51 years ago.
What an incredible story. They should do a movie about that. What a love story. So wait a minute. So you meet this wonderful young lady, but you're still going through the drug abuse. You're still getting high. What was the turnaround? What got you off drugs and ultimately off the streets so that you could be the right kind of husband for this lady?
Well, a friend of mine had a brother that worked in a print shop for Lou Harris and Associates, the poster. And he gave me a job. And I never went to school, I couldn't read, but if you would teach me something, I wasn't stupid. So I learned how to print. And from there, I went to another company, Oppenheimer, and there was 60 employees, all black and Hispanics, and one day they had the audacity to hire a new supervisor. It was a white boy. And this white dude named Otto Lang, German, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, came to me, shook my hand. Matter of fact, he shook my hand a little too tight. I didn't like it. And he said to me, I want to tell you something, Jesus loves you. And I told him to take that Jesus junk somewhere else. Where was your Jesus when I was eating out of garbage cans? I said, I don't want to hear about that Jesus. But this man would come every single morning, shake my hand and read me a verse.
Verse from the Bible.
Verse from the Bible. In the beginning, it was kind of cute. After a while, it got a little tiring. So I took his Bible to the glue machine and I glued his Bible so he couldn't open it. And so he went to the cutter and he cut the glue off. He came to me, shook my hand, told me Jesus loved me and read me a verse. And so, he sowed these things in me that I didn't even know was sown in me. And he left. I was strung out. My wife was going to leave me with my kids, and I called him up, and I told him, and he said, listen, come to church. And I said, yeah, but you live in Brooklyn. I live in Staten Island. He said, no, I go to church in Staten Island. So I told my wife, listen, why don't we go to church? He told me, church? You? But she knew Otto. So we went to the morning service, came home, and I wanted to go to the night service. Back in those days, they had service at night. I went to the service at night. I sat all the way in the back of the church, and I made this deal with God. I said, Jesus, God, whatever your name is, personally, I think you're a hustle, but I got nothing to lose. I got nothing to lose. If you could take this habit off my back and my family don't leave me, absolutely no one will ever serve you like me. That's 46 years ago. I've never relapsed one time. Not once have I relapsed. It was a hard journey in the beginning. I mean, I didn't know how to read. I never went to school. My pastor wanted me to get baptized, but I had to read this booklet, and I didn't want to do that. So a retired teacher, Angelica Valentin, tutored me for 3 years and taught me how to read. I would go to a house and read See Sally Run. Wow. It was humiliating, but she would say to me, you have to look at it like you have a little axe and a big tree, keep chopping away. I took the GD test 6 times. Because back then, if you failed one part, you failed it all. Not today, it's different.
To get your equivalency.
Yeah, so I got my equivalency. Then I started doing my theological studies through Moody Bible Institute, and almost early in my conversion, I felt call. And so call to ministry. And so I started basketball leagues in Staten Island for the most dangerous projects. We had over 200 boys, send quite a few of them to Nyack Bible College. And then I met a guy called George McGovern, and he's with Athletes in Action, and I went with Athletes in Action, and that's
a great organization that's still around.
And that's how I wound up going to sports. You know, he invited me to he asked me, would you like to do a chapel with the Yankees? I said, you kidding, man? You know? So here I find myself going down the stairs, following that line in the locker room, and there's Paul O'Neill, there's Derek Jeter, there's Scott Brocious, and I'm saying to myself, this is nuts, man. The following year, Mariano Rivera came to the team, and me and Mo, we hit it off immediately.
Yeah.
I spent 14 years doing a one-on-one Bible study with him in his mansion. Imagine, I lived in a cardboard box. I'm doing Bible studies with the greatest relief pitcher ever in the history of baseball.
You know, you talk about Mo, Mariano Rivera, the greatest of all time, retired relief pitcher, number 42, and he writes on the front of your book, I know a good closer when I see one. And he was the best. Yeah. He says, this book will close the old chapters in your life and set up for a new beginning. That's what happened to you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got Alonzo Mourning, who wrote the foreword to this book.
Yeah, Zoe, we call him Zoe. Zoe came to the Nets, and I went up to him to introduce myself. He was sitting down. He was taller than me sitting, you know, and so I said to him, Mr. Mourning, my name is, Pastor Willie, welcome, to New Jersey. Back then, we were in Jersey. And he picked up his head and he said, And when a 6'10", 390-pound brother go, that means leave me alone.
Yeah.
I left him alone. I came back the following game, did the same. He did the same. But I started a friendship with his bodyguard. And so almost a year later, as we all know, Alonzo's kidney broke down and he almost died. His cousin gave him a kidney. And, I woke up like 5 in the morning. I felt like God said to me, go visit Alonzo. I said, Lord, the brother says, but I called Bobby Mark, which was the traveling secretary. He gave me the hospital I went. But guess who was deciding who went in and who didn't? The bodyguard that I made a friendship with. It was, God had set it up.
Yeah.
I walked in and he had this big smile. He said, hey, Pastor Willie, how you doing? And I got ticked off. I said, brother, I guess it's something about almost dying that now you don't mind seeing the pastor. Right? We got to talking a little bit. As I was walking out, I pointed at Zoe, I want to ask you a question. What are you going to do about Jesus? He said, brother, you don't know what I've done. So I went and sat next to him and told him my story, and he gave his life to the Lord right there.
Wow.
And for the next 3 months that he was rehabbing, I was in his house doing a Bible study with him. Can you imagine? I used to live in a box, man.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Bible study with one of the greatest power forwards, Hall of Famer ever to live. So he wrote a book. And in his book, chapter 10 is all about our friendship.
That's awesome.
Then he went to the Hall of Fame.
That's awesome.
And he, in the Hall of Fame, in his acceptance speech, he asks me to stand. He says, that man led me to Christ. Where my crazy dream? But God, God has a plan for all of us, man. We just got to get with his program.
I love this. I'm talking to Willie Alfonso. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about his book, It's a New Beginning, How to Turn Setbacks into Comebacks. And certainly you've heard his story and the story of his great relationship and friendship with Alonzo Mourning and the great Mariano Rivera. We're back with more of America's Hope in just a moment. Welcome back to America's Hope. The book is called It's a New Beginning and How to Turn Setbacks into Comebacks, and is written by my good friend Willie Alfonso, who is the former chaplain to the New York Yankees, the New Jersey Nets, as well as the New York Giants.
It's the Brooklyn Nets now.
The Brooklyn Nets now, exactly. I'm deeply moved by your story, Willie, because I knew of your story, but to hear you say it firsthand in front of me, and now you're no longer working as a chaplain to the sports franchises that are so. I mean, you're talking about the New York Yankees, man. There's no other team like the New York Yankees.
You know, I got when my mentor told me one time, and he said to me to a point of annoyance, "Never make it yours. Never make it yours." And it used to annoy me, but I'm gonna tell you that I'm so grateful that he drilled that in me, because I was home a couple of years back, and I just, you know, I'm not this like name it and claim it kind of guy, you know. But I just sensed in my spirit that was it.
Yeah.
And I called Joe Girardi and I called Baseball Chapel, told him, "That's it, man. I'm done," you know. And I you know, I felt God wanted me to move on, and it was a great ride. I had the time of my life. I saw many of these men come to the Lord, and many didn't, but I planted a seed in them, you know. And Lord opened up an opportunity for me to be with Teen Challenge.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. This is the next chapter of your life. You're now working with Teen Challenge, so you're helping teenagers who are growing up in similar situations that you grew up in, and you're helping to transform their lives.
Absolutely.
By introducing to a relationship with God.
Yeah, they're from 18 to 100, and we had as many as 60 residents there. All either drug addicts or alcoholics, and I understand their pain. I understand their pain, but you know, they come in, they're hustlers. They're trying to hustle you all day long. I love it. You know, I love the challenge. You know, you know, a guy will come into my office and he'll tell me this story, and I'll say to him, "Do me a favor, man. Why don't you get out of my office, come back in 10 minutes, and change that story, brother."
Right, because you can't out-hustle a hustler.
Yeah, that ain't gonna fly. You
Right.
know, been there, done that. You know,
Yeah.
That ain't gonna fly. But I'm watching men transform from drug addicts, sometimes 25 years in drugs, to becoming men of God. I'm watching God change the heart of their family and watch them reconcile with their family. I'm watching them getting their GED. I'm watching them from when they graduate to go to re-entry for 6 months and getting a job and saving their money, and I connect them to a church, you know, help them get an apartment, you know, so they can do life the way God intended it.
So, and that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. They can do life the way God intended it. And you talked about family, and you grew up in a broken family, and I'm a strong believer that the greatness of our nation starts at home.
Absolutely.
And if home is broken and torn asunder, how do you rebuild it?
Yeah, you know, I come from a broken family, but that's not who I am. You know, I'm a special man created by God to do something special that only I could do for God. You know, and that's what I tell the men. You're special. You're all special, created by God, because God don't make junk, to do something special. It may not be what I did, but it's what God wants you to do. You know, but you're a special man. You know, my greatest testimony is not that I was with the Yankees. My greatest testimony is not that I was with the Giants, Staten Island Yankees, or Brooklyn Nets. My greatest testimony is I'm married for 51 years to the same girl, and I'm more in love with her today than I was when I married her.
Wow.
And she's more in love with me today. We've learned how to work it out. You know, and married couples need to learn how to work it out. That no matter what comes their way, and it's gonna come, okay, that it doesn't interfere in the love they have for each other.
So glad you said
I
that.
love my wife with all my heart. I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for her.
Wow.
You know, had I listened to her more, I would have not gotten into half the mess I've got myself into. You know, I'm grateful to the Lord that He sent her to me. I love her dearly. I love my 3 children dearly. I love my granddaughter. Just started college this year. You see the smile on my face? Love it, man.
See the smile.
And, you know, and my grandson is now in high school. My nieces, the reporter for Channel 11, Lisa Mateo. That's my
Yeah.
niece. That's my niece.
Wow.
And I'm so proud of her. And I'm doing life the way God wants me to do life, man. But it started with me giving my life to Him. But not only that, but living out my salvation. Not just picking up my hand and going down an aisle, but living out the salvation and making Christ my God.
Man, I am so glad that you are on this show, because we need your message more now than ever, I think. There are a lot of people out there who are hopeless, and you just fill them with hope. Talk to me about the new book real quick. It's A New Beginning, How to Turn Setbacks into Comebacks, because certainly you've just shared a lot of it.
It's my life. This is my life story, from birth to when I was with sports a little bit, and my wife's in, my children, and the story about my family. My father, there was a very abusive man. My parents divorced, and then my father, he was a merchant seaman, so he married this Philippine girl and had a daughter, Linda, and he beat the living daylights out of her too, and beat Linda so bad. I didn't even know I had a sister, that the state took her away. He was living up in Spanish Harlem, and one day my mother calls me up and tells me, hey, listen, your dad, he was opening up the window and had a brain aneurysm and fell behind the sofa and was with his face and shoulder on the radiator for 3 days, burning.
Wow.
And I said, now mind you, I'm a pastor. I said, I hope he dropped dead.
Wow.
I hope he dropped dead, man. As a matter of fact, I hope that God would cut down every tree on earth, send it down to hell, so when he gets down there, it'd be hot. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Okay? This thing, reverend, chaplain, pastor, they don't help me none, man. I'm trying to work this out like everybody else.
Yeah, like everybody else. Yeah.
And so I was going about my day, but God let me go to the hospital to see him. I said, God, you're going to lose this one. I ain't going nowhere, But make a long story short, I went, got there, my sister and brother was there, and so I get there, this the man that put me through hell. And I'm looking at him. And I said, God, I don't know why you got me here, man. He said, what I want you to do is I want you to lead him to me before he dies. I said, you asking for too much. But I went up to him. He was in a coma. My baby sister said bendición, which means bless me. You see in the Hispanic culture, when you see a relative, you say bendición, and they answer, que Dios te bendiga favorezca, may God bless you and favor you. And he was in a coma, but when she said that, he came out of the coma, and God said, go. I said, oh man. So I go up to this guy, and I said, listen, what's happened between you and I, let's put it behind us. The issue here is that you need to know Christ. So I'm going to pray, but he fell into a coma. I said, I'm going to pray, and if you want to receive Christ, move your hand, move something, and he moved his hand, and 2 hours later, he died.
Wow.
I want to tell you something, that even though I was in ministry, I always felt like I wasn't getting to where I needed to get to. The day I forgave him, it was like God took my hand out of neutral and popped it into first, second, and third, and I've been riding it ever since. Because people need to understand that forgiveness is not for that person. Forgiveness is to free you. It's to free that hardened heart that you have. A lot of people say, I'll just bury it in my heart, I'll just bury it in my heart. Well, guess what? Your heart is not a cemetery for you to be putting tombstones in there, and there's no room for God, But when I forgave him, man, I felt this.
It's that release.
This release. And so people need to understand that forgiveness is not for that person. That person could tell you to go somewhere. It makes no difference. It's for you. It's to free you. And so I forgave my father, and my mother just recently died. My mother and I had zero relationship. My mother was into witchcraft. We grew up in Santeria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We grew up in witchcraft. Yeah. And so my mother was deeply into witchcraft, and she would put curses on me and my children and my wife. So I had to keep a distance from her.
Yeah, I covered a lot of stories about Santeria and murders.
I grew up in that. I grew up in that. I know all about it. I could smell it a mile away. And so I couldn't be around her because she was into this deep satanic Santeria.
Yeah, wow.
But you know something, Kelly, it's life, man. It's life, and you move on. And I'm 71, and I'm fully aware that the grave is not far. I'm fully aware of it. but I want to die exhausted for God.
That's great.
I do. You know, I want to die exhausted for God. You know, I'm 71. I'm in fairly good health. You know, I have a issue. I have chronic pain syndrome in this leg, but this year, you know, I get 12 sick days a year. I haven't used one.
That's great.
You know,
Willie, you're a walking story of faith and hope and love.
Hallelujah.
And I got to point this out real quickly. On your ring finger there, on your right hand.
You know, I got a couple.
You're gonna hold it up. You got a couple of these.
A couple of these.
So that ring right there, just holding for the camera, that is the New York Yankees for what year?
'09.
The '09 World Series.
And I have a player gave me this, and I have 7 minor league rings with the Staten Island Yankees, which I was with 20 years. A lot of those guys that made the major leagues, I knew them when they were kids.
Yeah.
You know, Robinson Cano, Milky Cabrera. Wow. I had them when they were 17 years old. Robinson Cano used to come to my house and eat rice and beans and pork chops. So when he made it to the major league, I got a roll of paper and I threw it at his feet. He said, "What's that?" I said, "Brother, that's your bill. All the rice and beans you ate in my house." I told him I want cash.
Man, I'm so glad you came on to keep it, excuse me, real. But so we got to go, but I just love this. The book, again, is called It's a New Beginning, How to Turn Setbacks into Comeback. It's the life story of Willie Alfonso.
They could get it on Amazon and Kindle.
Amazon and Kindle. And let me just point out something that Alonzo Mourning says. Again, he's the 2006 NBA champion, NBA Hall of Famer, VP of Player Development, Miami Heat. He says, "I wrote in my book, Resilience, that I didn't know what God's plan was, but it pleased me to be in that position because I knew that this was just the beginning. It was a new beginning by going through what I have had to go through." And he credits you for helping him with his life. Mario, man, it's a great book.
Amen.
But it's nice to meet a great man.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too.
America's Hope continues in a moment.
Welcome back to America's Hope. So from a chaplain who has actually helped so many superstars in baseball, football, and the NBA, we go now to a person who is right there on the front lines and securing and making sure that people are taken care of, because he does security for a lot of high-profile celebrities and sports figures. His name is Lewis Perry. He's president of Kadima Security, and for over 30 years, he's been working in the security industry. Lewis has provided security for the elite, high-profile people, as I stated, politicians, former presidents, court security details, personal protection. He's done it all, providing crime prevention tips as well for many people living in Los Angeles, California. Lewis Perry is also the author of the book, Failure is Not an Option, The Lewis Perry Story. He joins us now from Los Angeles. Lewis, how are you doing, man? It's good to welcome you to America's Hope.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. I have to tell you, first of all, thank you for having me. But more importantly, thank you for doing the great work you've done for so many years in the industry. You have been a hallmark guy to do great work and keeping everything 100%, and the world appreciates you. I wish I could see you more.
Well, you're kind to say that, and we'll work on seeing each other more, because we've known each other for many years. And look, you know, this life that we live is often very difficult and problematic. You work in the security field. That means you're working with a lot of people who are really trying to stop the bad guys from taking advantage of innocent people. What's that been like for you, especially in this time of adversity that's going on in our country in terms of the divisiveness that we have, the anti-Semitic crimes that have been rising up, as well as anti-Asian crimes and just the issues that go on in our society?
Well, you know, Kelly, it's a very sad day in the United States. It's insanity. I mean, I cannot even handle the amount of calls we are getting from a business perspective, from a financial perspective. It's a great thing. from a humanitarian perspective, it's an awful thing. And I don't like to benefit off the sickness of society issues that are taking place around the world, and specifically in Israel and Palestine and Gaza. It's put us to the point where we are doubling, tripling the company. People who never had security are asking for security. Not one, two, three, not unarmed, but armed. It is insanity, specifically in Los Angeles, where we have a large number of Jews. But around the country, it's the same thing. I've talked to other professionals. It's really bad, really bad.
So, are you being called to provide more security at Jewish synagogues and for some of the people, like the people who work on the rabbinical staffs of those particular synagogues?
A to Z. A to Z. Today I just came from a school. Yesterday it came from a synagogue. Then it was a march, a demonstration. Then it was a Jewish home. Every which way we are getting calls. The security industry has literally gone insane. From a financial, okay, thank you. But to see what's going on in society as a human being, it's a very, very scary place that we're in.
How do we get here, Louis?
I think we got here for a number of reasons. The first reason is before my time, and I'm 62, this has been going on for many, many years between the Middle East. Israel, Palestine, Hamas, Gaza, and many other countries on that side of the world. I think the point is that the hate is so large. The hate is something that starts from sometimes above and works its way down to the root. What does that mean? There are videos that are surfaced with kids that are 8 years old being taught to hate Jews. How can you possibly have a peaceful environment when you're raising hate from the beginning? Same thing happens with the KKK. If you raise a kid to hate people of color, that's all he knows. It's like teaching somebody the alphabets. We're in a very sad place. The evil of the world is showing their face. And I'm not going to mention names, but I feel when people see a high-profile person with a lot of hate against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they say it's okay to rear our head now because the leader is hating. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
Yeah, so it becomes a matter of the heart and what you're being taught. My mother used to always say that prejudice is something taught, and it's something that you have to learn. If you keep feeding it, it will grow. Look, you grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn, and you grew up with a multiplicity of different people from different backgrounds. They were Jewish, they were Islamic, they were Christians, they were Latino, they were black, they were white. You know, they were from every corner of the globe, and you were able to work side by side with them. Have we lost that, and can we get it back?
That's a very good question, Kelly. You know, let me go back in time. I was raised, as you said, I was in a business called the Schmata business. The Schmata business is a Jewish industry of the garment industry. And then I was raised by Palestinian people in restaurants. They showed me love. They appreciated me. They supported me. They respected me. I respected them. My mother, like your mother, Kelly, said, you know, there's good and bad in all people. And that's what I live my life with. That's what I tell my kids. There's good and bad in all people. I do not associate with bad people. If a person says, I hate blacks, then you hate me. If a person says, I hate whites, then you hate me. If a person says, I hate Jews, then you hate me. If a person says, I hate Palestinians, then you hate me. We need to go to the grassroots of love for humanity.
If I can't talk to people like you who are on the front lines of these things that go on, and yet you still walk away from it having hope when you look at your wife and your children and your co-workers and your friends, if I can't show that hope, then what's the point in showing up to work?
Let me tell you this. This is not, hope is for everybody. Hope is not just for the Jews, not just for the Palestinians. This hope is for everybody. That's why God put this beautiful thing we live in called the world, Earth. We're taking it for granted.
I need to ask you, as hardened as you have to be against the criminal element, what is it that you're trying to get people to know, like your clients, about how we should become more proactive in being, just what you said, better neighbors to each other and looking out for each other to build a sense of community and unity rather than the divisiveness that we've seen?
Well, there's several questions in one which I like. So I'll answer them all. I am not Jewish, but I'm a huge provider of security for the Jewish people, which means what? They trust me. In trust comes opportunity. The top Jewish people in the world, I have provided security for. Jonathan Sachs, Rabbi Kunin, Elie Wiesel. Those are the top names. All the synagogues, Chabad. Now, what do I want to tell people? Listen, we live in a world where there are people who are crazy. They don't understand what me and you talk, Kelly. They don't understand family. They don't understand work. They don't understand ethics. So your show of hope, which you always bring to the table, teaches people that. You may catch one person to change their life on your show. And that's more than someone else is doing. So what we have to do is we have to be alert for those crazy people that are out there. The people who want to bring harm to blacks, to Jews, to whites, to Persians, to any race, any religion. We have to be aware of what they look like, what they bring, how they carry themselves. Let me take out what they look like. Let's talk about how they act. Hate, material of hate, emails of hate. That's the person we need to watch. How do we do that? Look, this is not a day of leaving your doors open anymore. You don't leave your doors open. You lock your doors. I live in the fourth safest community in the whole country. Where I live, I'm not going to tell you where I live, but where I live is the fourth safest community in the whole country. I got 3 locks on my door. The front, bottom, the top, and the middle. 3 locks. Then I got a Rottweiler inside that will take care of business. Now, if you get past my Rottweiler, I'm going to be doing a Tony Montana thing. Let me introduce you to my new friend. Okay? That's the reality of it. I'm prepared. We all need to be prepared. We all need to keep your doors locked. Check where you park. Look at your surroundings. If you're only going to spend $100, don't take $300. Christmas is coming. Keep your gifts in a locked area of the trunk. Don't leave your gifts in the back so people could look in and steal it. It could be a McDonald's bag empty. People notice sometimes people put cash in McDonald's bags.
It's true.
Make sure your card's clear. Keep your card clear. And most important, no. Even though you may think he's not around, my friend upstairs, he's always around. And
That's
to
a
those
good point.
guys out there that may have stumbled onto this show, I got to say this. You may think you have gotten over on somebody by robbing them or stealing from them. He knows. And when it happens to your mother, when she goes to the store and she goes shopping and somebody robs her, and you've been robbing people your whole life, that's why it happened. What goes around comes around. That's old school, Kelly.
Yeah, yeah.
It's true. It exists.
I'm talking to Louis Perry. He's president of Kadima Security. We're going to take a slight break, and when we come back, we will go over his book, Failure is Not an Option. That's coming up next. Welcome back to America's Hope. I'm talking to a good friend, Louis Perry, president of Kadima Security. Is based in Los Angeles. I want to talk about your book, Failure is Not an Option, because in that you describe how you grew up in a tough area in Brooklyn, New York, and ultimately became successful because of the faith that you had to grow up with, and the lessons that you learned from growing up. Talk to me about it, please.
Well, Failure is Not an Option was inspired by, to be honest with you, Kelly, people like you, good people in the world, who have mentored me, inspired me by their works, by their good deeds. I watch you, I watch
Thank you.
others, and I want to be a good person in life. I want my kids to say my father was a good man. That book walks you through Brooklyn, New York, the hardships that I dealt with in New York, all the way to moving to California. And it basically talks about never giving up. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will ever believe in you. You have to believe in yourself first. There's a Spanish word that says, si se puede. That means, yes, I can. Yes, you can. I am not a special guy. I just happen to work hard, and I happen to know that if I want to accomplish something, the only way to get there is to work, not to steal, not to sell drugs, not to rob, to respect, work hard, and be a good human being. That's what my book's about. It talks about a guy starting from here and working up to here, but yet my heart is still here. That's what it's all about. I am not the smartest guy in the world by far, but I will outwork anybody who's lazy and do very well because of it.
Louis, I thank you so much for coming on the show, and you're just a straight shooter, man. I've always loved that about you, and you've gone on to work for some very notable people, actually protecting them. And I've met some of those people, and some of the famous people, you know, they've turned into good, close friendships for me. But man, you know, I could go down your list, but I don't want to put you out like that. But you do have quite a few celebrities out there that you're taking care of. I appreciate you.
I have a lot of celebrities I've done, but to be honest with you, the celebrities are like any other person. Just like me, just like you, just like Nancy. We're just human beings. At the end of the day, we are just human beings. Elon Musk is a human being. He's not special unless you put him there. He's a good person or he's a bad person. He's a human being. That's it.
And because of that, those particular high-profile people keep calling you back. It's because of your way of being there to help them.
If you call me, I have to tell you this, Kelly. My goal is one thing when you call me. When I pick you up, I want to drop you off home. That's the key. Secured, 100%. Want to throw a little jokes in there? Maybe I'll do that too for you, but I ain't gonna try. But I'll keep it real, 100%.
That's why they call you. I'm just going to put it out there. Smokey Robinson. Where else can I go without embarrassing you? My good friend Claudette Robinson, the first lady of Motown. I'm going to lose some of the names that are out there.
All right, Suzanne, you want me to throw some at you?
Okay.
We got Suzanne DePass, Smokey. You have what's his name? Oh Jesus, that's one of the things about getting old. I've done a lot of boxes. I've done a lot of movie stars. I've done Mel Gibson, Al Pacino, you name it, I've done them. I've done the top people in the world. The owners of the St. Louis Cardinals, the DeWitt family, Veronica Ferris, the German actress, huge German actress, you name it, I've done them. I've worked 3 presidents, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, when they retired. I've had a blessed life. I mean, God has been so great to me. If God wants to take me home tonight, don't cry. I've lived a great life.
So
I'm happy. I'm happy.
I'm happy for you. You've done great things, and I want to ask you real quickly before we go, based on the life that you've had, what's your hope for America and the world?
You know, Kelly, that's a deep question, but I'm going to tell you what my hope has always been my whole life. Kelly, the best day of my life would be for every corner of the world to be at peace. For the Jews to work with the Muslims and to be able to sit and have a barbecue together, families, blacks, whites, Spanish, Asian, every denominator. We should have a world day of peace where we could all get together and barbecue with each other and have food together, let our kids play together. The world would be so much of a beautiful place, and I think that's what God had in mind. He had to have that in mind, because why should I dislike a person because of the color of their skin or the religion? Why? I love everybody. I love everybody. I love you, Kelly. And I know you love me back. We just need to love each other, man. We need to stop this hate. Stop the parents. If you're on the station, parents, don't tell your kid to hate somebody because of the religion or color of their skin. Tell them to love them. There's good and bad in all. That's what Mother said. She was right. My mother had maybe not the greatest education from a third world country, but she was smart when it came to humanity and love of humanity. My friends were of all races, white, black, Spanish, Asian. Come on, guys, let's get it together, because I think our time is running out if we don't. God's going to say, you know what, maybe the next batch will be better. I'm going to take this batch away. Could happen.
Yeah. Louis Perry, so much love for you, man. I appreciate you, brother. President of Kadima Security, based in Los Angeles. Call him up if you need him. But if you just need someone to tell you like it is, you just heard him. Appreciate you, Louis. God bless you, man.
God bless you, too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'd like to thank our guests, Louis Perry and Willie Alfonso, for being on tonight's program. My final word is based on their infectious personalities that provide you with hope. Willie and Louis, if you could just bottle that joy that they have and that perseverance that they have, wow, that would be so good. What I seek to do on this program of America's Hope is to infuse resiliency and perseverance in you and in me, because through that we develop character that's good stuff that helps us overcome the adversity that we encounter. And so I want to thank them again for introducing you to this wonderful gift called hope, and their courageous and bold behavior of spreading not hate, but love, freedom, and peace. Until next time, America, let hope endure. Good night.
My America. We agree to disagree, but still live in harmony, because we are a family. God bless your America and my America.
United we stand, divided